Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining in. Live from the Biel Chess Festival, we are recording the 60-minute course for you. Grandmaster Leon Mendonca, I'm so happy that you're doing this with us. And there's a reason we are trying to counter the most fierce attacks and be confident with it, because when we were analyzing your games from Vike, where you won the challengers, so that was quite something. When we were looking at the games, there were some points where I thought like, oh gosh, you're getting crushed, right? There were pawns rolling forward, there was a bishop there, your king was under pressure. And you confidently said, when I was asking you, so here I'm a little bit better. And I thought like, but how? Wow, what? There's this attack going on, how can you be so confident? Putting on the engine says exactly the same. So, you grew up kind of in this engine times, maybe that is part of it. But I thought it would be super interesting because we're all at one point facing fierce attacks. So you know how to deal with it, what pieces to concentrate on, how to get out of it, all those things. And this is what this course is about. So I hope all of you will enjoy this, and we will have a nice example in this intro video for you so you know what will await you. We will browse through the whole game. We will even go into a bit of my analysis, so it's going to be something worth it. Okay, I think it's your turn. So we're looking at a game between Topalov and Adams.
Yeah. I think both players were pretty young at this point because I see their ratings were pretty low. And
True.
they went on to become much stronger than this.
Yeah, they become both Super Grandmasters. Veselin, one of the ones even striving through 2,800.
Yes, becoming a world champion.
And he was white.
Yeah. So the game started off as in English, and I guess nobody would suspect that such fierce complications would arise from in English. So that was pretty surprising.
But of course, Veselin, he is known as an attacker. And Michael Adams, what is he known for?
Actually, their styles contrast pretty vastly.
okay.
So Topalov is known for going straight into a fight, complications and everything. Michael Adams is more like of a more controlled positional player. So it was, okay, as we'll see the game, it was weird that they play in each other's styles. So I'm not sure like what is the current state of theory in this variation, but it's not part of our topic. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. Nowadays, the main line is something like this, but in the game, d6 was played. I guess they were not so advanced in theory back then. So bishop g2, and now he could have played castles, but in the game he played a very, kind of tempting option, g5, straight away, aiming for the knight on h4.
Yeah. So the question is actually, where does he even go?
Yeah, you don't go anywhere because you have this very strong move, queen a4. And all of a sudden, the bishop on b4 is kind of in trouble.
Okay.
And the variation is pretty, almost forcing at least, because let's say if black goes back, then white has this very strong move d4. Suddenly, the bishop on c1 is aiming at the pawn on g5, and basically black is left with a terrible position because his king is extremely weak.
That looks great for white, yeah.
The other move is g takes h4, but over here, I think most people would at least prefer white because, well, you have a very safe position, you have the nice two bishops, and black's king is actually fairly weak. He's overextended himself. This even happened in a game between Dubov and Alireza in the World Cup. But in the game, bishop d7 was played, which is another interesting option, with the idea knight takes b4, knight d4. So black has temporarily gone down a piece, but he's trying to keep his pieces a bit active. Here, queen d1 is a nice move because, well, after g takes h4, white has a pleasant choice. To me, d3 looks very interesting, and I think this was much better, in fact. Just to open up the position, and suddenly bishop g5 can be annoying, and black's king is suddenly very weak, I think. And let's say after something like, okay, if you play h3, first of all, white can safely take this, be a pawn up, and, well, there's nothing serious at the moment, right? And if bishop g4, aiming at the e2 pawn, white can bravely just take this because, well, black is undeveloped, basically. So such concrete measures would not work. Actually, this is a funny variation I found. If d takes e4, c5, it looks like black is still keeping the initiative, and then suddenly white counterattacks, attacking the bishop.
Oh, because of course you cannot take. Okay, see. Yeah. On b4, yeah.
You can take, but you'll be in a lost position, I guess. So. And if h3, you just go bishop f1, and it's quite funny. And if queen a5,
my God,
a3.
It continues.
And somehow white is even winning in this situation.
Wow.
So I like these kind of situations where, you know, black kind of one side overextends himself and then finds himself in a lost position. So.
Overextending himself. That is probably a theme which will reoccur a couple of times, I
Yes,
guess.
yeah.
And I tend to overextend all the time. And you are actually, you like it, you feel safe in those situations and great because you have this understanding of chess too.
Yeah, if it works, it's great. But if it doesn't work, you're just a bad player.
Same with attacks, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
So that was a funny line. But in the game, white played knight c2, which is kind of not the most accurate, let's say. Anyways, in the game, black had a pleasant choice again. He could either take the knight and just play normally, but white would be left with a strategically better position. So in the game, he went for h3, which is initiating some
annoying
complications. Well, not really, because white has this very powerful counter move, bishop takes e4, simply getting out of the way, and it works tactically. So
yeah.
Knight takes e4, knight takes d4, and queen f6, knight f3. So now in this position, I found this interesting for our topic because I don't know, it might look like black has a very serious initiative, right? I mean, he's got his pawn all the way up to h3, which looks dangerous. He has got the light squares, and his king can probably queenside castles.
Basically, and this is what is the fascinating thing about for me, I would feel very confident with black right now because of that pawn. I just like it to have this pawn. I think it's annoying. You just were threatening mate for a short second. That's the thing I like too. Yeah.
In general, it looks great.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's not.
Okay, so why is that?
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, first of all, bishop c6 was played in the game. If long castles now, white can simply push d3 and, well, actually, black is lost because there's bishop g5 coming in. And once the knight moves, bishop g5 would win the rook on d8.
I see, yes.
So, and any other move as well would be met with d3. So that's why black tried to prepare for that and play bishop c6, just aiming the bishop down.
So not necessarily a wrong move. It keeps the attack going.
Yeah. So in these kinds of situations, at least it's important to see what are real threats and what are not, right? So right now, it looks like white has a very desperate situation with his king. But in reality, if you look at it, there's no real attack, is there now? Because I don't see a way black can break through, honestly, unless he exchanges his knight and somehow gets to the g2 square. But in any case, white has many resources. He can play f3, he can do whatever. And I don't see real compensation for the pawn. And, well, you can now think as white what you might want to do.
Okay. Yeah, for you at home, you can also stop the video if you want to. So I will give a quick, not to delay this for too long. Long casting might be even more dangerous, but
for white.
Yes. So
it will take a lot of time.
Is it actually short casting?
Yes.
What?
And
that happened in the game.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, of course, yeah, of course.
No, it's very important to see objective threats and imaginary ones. So in this case, in fact, black has no real threats. It only looks dangerous.
I would have been scared of h5, h4 now.
Yeah, but also like white has his own trumps. He can play d3 or d4, d5, or d3, for example. Knight moves anyway. Bishop g5. White has his own threats. So.
Okay.
So it's kind of like you have to assess what is real and what is just fake. Even after h5, h4, in fact, if you take hg3, I just take fg3, and well, I don't see anything real. Yeah. So even in that case, it looks good. So black decided to play h6, just preparing for d3 so that he can move the knight. Yeah. There were other options, but I think, like for example, rook g8 might look tempting, but in fact, after something like this, well, white is threatening to go d5, so black takes. Something like this can happen, and white is just a pawn up for nothing.
Okay.
And of course, if you long castle as well, d3 would just be bad for black. So in the game, h6 was played. Now, well, d3 was possible with just a better game for white, but Vaseline decided that the knight on e4 was badly placed. It might look weird, but in fact, the knight on e4 is not doing much. So he just went d4 with the idea of just expanding his position and just normal play, I guess. Now, if long castles, then I guess d5 would be nice for white, because now the black bishop as well is going to be totally passive. So d5 was played.
Okay.
Trying to get control of the center and the light squares.
Open up a bit, yeah.
now, in fact, I think white made a mistake. He went c5. He had better options, like he could even take and go bishop f4. And now even black's king is totally weak if you look at it. Because if long castles, then rook c1, and suddenly there's a lot of issues for him on the
I
c5.
see.
Or he could even go knight e5 directly. But he decided to just block the whole center and claim that he's a pawn up. It's reasonable, in fact, yeah. So long castle was played, knight e5, which is normal, and rook hg8. And here again, you can take a short while to think what white could do basically in this position.
Well, obviously, bishop f4 is not a good option anymore. So, yeah, and that is okay. This is very interesting. So I feel a bit suffocated right now already, and this is this feeling I generally have, and this is why I liked your idea. This suffocation feeling is something I feel uncomfortable with, and I think you are going more with it, like embrace it, feel it, because you're a pawn up, and there's nothing happening.
Yeah.
So let me just, I don't know, I'm saying bishop e3, for example.
I think that's reasonable, but so for example, in these situations, in most cases when you're under an attack, you should have either of two things, I think. Yeah, just material, like right now we are pawn up, or just try to create counterplay. Otherwise, you would just slowly be crushed.
So counterplay, like self-attacking, like b4 would be an interesting thing, maybe?
b4 is interesting, but a slightly better version would be a4.
a4 and then b4.
And this is actually, it's a dual purpose move. You start an attack, and also you have this idea of rook a3, defending the king side over the third rank.
Okay, very good. So either you have a bit more material, or you can start a counterattack.
Yeah,
Good
or just defend with the rook. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I like this move very much. And okay, h5 was played. I guess black has to try something like this.
Yeah.
Rook a3. Now, okay, if h4, there's rook f3, which is really nice, I think. Yeah, suddenly the rook is in the game. So black played queen e6 first to escape this. And okay, b4 is played, which is normal, continuing with the same idea. f6. If h4, by the way, just b5, and well, now white's pieces are just taking over basically. So f6 was played, and knight takes c6 was probably a bit simpler, but I guess it's a matter of taste, because on one hand, black's bishop was totally sad.
Yeah, true.
Exchanging a good knight. But I guess now white's position was so good that he could do anything he wants, something like this. And in fact, there's no real attack on the white king.
Yes.
So anyways, white went knight d3 with the idea to go knight f4. In fact, knight f4 happened here. And still, it might look that something dangerous is happening, but in fact, the white king is extremely safe, with the rook on a3 especially. And I don't see anything, and neither did Topalov, I guess. So queen f5, b5, bishop e8. Now, white had many options here. So, for example, queen b3 was interesting with the idea of a5.
Okay.
But f3 was really amazing, which the computer thinks it's winning. But I don't recommend such move because, well, it's not necessary.
That also just looks bonkers. That's a computer move, as you would say. Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that might have. Oh, gosh!
Something like this.
No.
But apparently, the only move here is queen d3. Which wins for them.
Yeah, but that is like, I mean, okay.
No, I wouldn't recommend you make such moves anyways. So. Queen d3 was played in the game, which is normal, I guess, with the idea to play a5, keeping an eye on the e4 knight, f5 queen. And, well, rook d7 was tried.
To go to rook g7, I guess.
Yeah. Build up the pressure. And now, I mean, there were other options, but queen b3 was interesting. So, I mean, it might look dumb, but the idea is just to prevent rook dg7. And
I see.
It's pretty interesting because now Adams is forced to find a new idea to attack. So he goes rook g5, which is still interesting, to defend the d5 pawn and still go rook dg7. c6. Finally, white reaches through. Rook here. Now, again, white had some more precise options, I guess, but he plays one of the most natural moves, taking the pawn.
King goes, takes back.
Yeah, I guess, even if you go to the side, I guess the same issue would happen. a5, b6, and sooner or later you would lose.
I see.
So king takes b7, and now, well, he could have continued with a5, but I guess at this point, he might have been getting a bit concerned, Topalov. So he went queen f3. And, well, if you still look at it, hg3 is not really an option, I guess, still. So, like...
1, 2, 3, 4 pieces are lurking at g3.
But yeah, something... wait, where's the mouse?
But you have enough defenders and...
Yeah, something like this. can happen.
And everything is fine because now all of a sudden all the attackers are gone and
Yep.
you have a comfy position.
Exactly, more material, winning basically.
Yeah.
So black still can't do anything. So he goes queen d7 out of desperation, I guess. He don't know what else to do. And now Topalov went for a very concrete line, knight d3, which was pretty interesting. With the idea bishop h5, it looks like, oh, white's queen is in big trouble, right? But no, knight c5 was the idea, which I think it's nice. Yeah.
Oh, you exchanged the queens like that.
Yes, and still, I mean, black can take, but, sorry, black can take, but he's left, I mean, c6 is a nice way to win the game. So he can't do that. He could try queen e7, but after, okay, this is a computer variation, but it just illustrates how good white's position is. And even though...
It doesn't even care about the rook.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, just bishop e3 might come next, or queen f8 is a threat already.
Yeah.
So, in fact, white's attack has come through first. Yeah. And if queen e6, something like rook e3 is nice, actually. But in the game, king b8 was played, which is a small mistake, but I guess the position was lost anyways. White took this pawn, and after rook f5, he could even take this pawn if he wanted, and after this, take this pawn as well, which is quite funny. And suddenly, black is left with nothing.
Oh,
but
gosh. Yeah.
he was more sane in playing queen d4. And after bishop takes e2, rook e1, suddenly we see that white is the one attacking. Actually.
Absolutely, yeah. So, because you were aware, or Topalov in this case was aware that he can defend without a problem. And then he used this thing, what you mentioned, the counterattack. That's what prevails after all.
No, most of the time you have to aim for a counterattack. So in this case, he kind of solidified his position first and then went for a counterattack, which I like very much.
The last attempt.
Yeah, and then queen e8, and then this final nice move. Rook takes e2, just won the game immediately. With the idea that after queen takes, check, king here, check,
king here. So you have to calculate a little.
Yeah, but only don't fall in this trap of giving the most natural check. Because
looks very natural, yeah.
Yeah, but then the king escapes and then you're done.
And that would be not so nice, though.
Yeah. But of course, Topalov is strong enough to see that queen d4 is important. And after king a5, bishop d2, well, black is forced to sacrifice his queen.
Very nice, of course, yeah. So, it wasn't necessary, but of course he saw it. He was strong enough to understand it, and he went for it. But of course, white was winning. Yeah, this is what you can expect from this course. So I hope you will watch it. And I'm curious to learn more about how to counter Fear's attacks.